This device might save the NFL.
Called the Q collar, and it is helping mankind.
Right now, as we speak, football is going through a crisis.
A strong debate continues over the risks and rewards of the game.
How do you tell a little kid, you can't play because I'm scared of what might happen to you in the future?
Early research reveals that 90% of former NFL players show signs of traumatic brain damage. So when a company claims they cut concussion risk by 66%, my curiosity shot through the roof. Because how could this possibly protect this more than this? What does it do? How does it work? Does it work? So I dug deep to give you the answers. And what I found led to a much bigger story. One where the NFL has to choose between protecting the players or protecting the game, and how this tiny collar might achieve both.
The goal is to revolutionize brain protection in sports.
But does it work?
I wore it for the last 3 years of my career. If I would have started wearing it earlier, some of those smaller ones would have been mitigated.
But first, what technically is a concussion? If you ran full speed into a tree, you'd come to a sudden stop. That change in speed can be represented as G-force. We live under 1G thanks to gravity. If you've been on a roller coaster, you might have felt up to 4Gs. Fighter jet pilots can experience up to 9Gs, 9 times the effect of Earth's gravity. Even 6G, if it lasts too long, can be deadly. So hearing that most concussions come from hits up to 95 Gs, that blew my mind. Think of a concussion like a car crash. If you've ever been in one, you know the car stops, but your body keeps moving forward. That's pretty much what your brain is doing inside of your skull. Your brain's basically floating around in fluid, kind of like jello in a cup of water. The sudden stop would make your brain slosh and smack against your skull. That slamming and abrupt movement in your skull makes the neurons and the axons that connect them stretch, twist, even snap. In extreme cases, the damage can hit near your brainstem. That's when you get knocked completely unconscious. When that wiring is cut, the signals in your brain can't get through, bringing on headaches and a ton of other symptoms. And that is a concussion. This left doctors kind of scratching their heads. How do you possibly stop the brain from moving around like that? Turns out, nature already solved this, thousands of years before football even existed. If you really think about it, woodpeckers spend all day slamming their heads into trees, and somehow they fly away unscathed. What's their secret? First, because they're so small, they naturally have less space in their heads. The brain doesn't have much room to move, so instead of sloshing around, the force just moves straight through. Of course, we can't really shrink our heads, so this idea is kind of off the table. Well, interestingly, we've also learned they have a certain muscle that squeezes their jugular vein, which backs up just a tiny bit of blood in their head, basically filling the space like bubble wrap, reducing the amount of room in their brain even more, doubling down on that effect. I mean, that's insane, and it's exactly what Dr. David Smith pieced together when he came up with the Q collar. I've started seeing this thing all over the NFL, and it's actually what inspired me to make this video. It works by applying pressure on the neck, gently squeezing the jugular vein, and pushing a bit of blood back into the head, basically reverse engineering the woodpecker's muscle. And the billion-dollar question is, does it work? But wait, before we get into that, at this point, you might be wondering, don't we already have helmets? Is this even necessary? And yeah, we do have helmets, but they might not be doing as much as you think. If you look at the history of helmets, there's really 5 iterations that we can look at. Weirdly enough, the inventor of basketballs, often credited as the creator of the first football helmet, was made of stitched flannel to protect his ears while playing football, which had basically no protection at all for the head. Then came hard leather in the 40s, which allowed team logos, but still, not much protection. They eventually moved to hard plastic in the 60s and added the face mask. But by the 70s and 80s, padding was added inside, and suddenly helmets felt like real protection. And today, with sensors, advanced padding, and tons of testing, they're as advanced and cool as ever. So at this point, you'd think concussion shouldn't be an issue, right? I mean, we have the best helmet tech we've ever had. But helmets can only do so much. They're great at preventing fractures and brain bleeding, yes, and they have reduced concussions. But even the newest models, which cut head acceleration by more than 70% compared to old leather helmets, can't bring that number to zero, not in a sport built on collisions. So a deeper problem is developed, and the way people are responding to it could change the future of football in America.
CTE.
Chronic traumatic encephalopathy.
CTE is a brain disease that develops as nerve cells die off after years of head trauma. The current idea is that it's caused by repeated head injuries, even the ones that don't knock you out. Retired NFL players are showing memory problems, cognitive impairment, and abnormal brain scans, things you wouldn't expect to see in people their age. And after a few high-profile cases, the term CTE took on a life of its own.
Football star Aaron Hernandez in jail tonight, charged with first-degree murder.
Former NFL player Philip Adams, that autopsy now revealing he was suffering from an unusually severe form of brain disease, CTE.
I'm telling you that playing football killed Mike Webster.
Scientists are still trying to understand exactly how it works. Since CTE can only be diagnosed after death, we can't say for certain that any of these tragedies are a direct result of it. But what we do know is that it's not rare. Of the 376 former players studied by Boston University since 2008, 345 of them had CTE, over 90%. As a result, parents are asking themselves, why would I subject my child to possible danger?
There's no point for it. Like my sons are not gonna play football.
No?
No.
Wow, that's crazy.
Unsurprisingly, football has seen a larger decline than any of the top 10 most popular sports in the country. The panic isn't just from parents. There's even been sizable efforts at the state level to ban youth tackle football as a whole. And while they never came to fruition, it shows how scared people are. And the NFL knows it. You can see it in the way they've molded the game itself. But that comes with a trade-off. Do you protect the player or do you protect the game? Like when they started flagging unnecessary roughness more often. It's safer, sure, but
unnecessary roughness. Defense number 39. Come on. I could not disagree with that one more, and he barely gets hit.
It puts defenders at a severe disadvantage. Or when they added a 17th game to the season. Great for ratings and revenue, but more strain on the player's health. And the new Guardian caps on the helmets. Safer, but admittedly are very goofy looking. Every change becomes this tug of war, safety versus the integrity of the game. The league can only do so much. Some players are just taking matters into their own hands.
So what have you learned though?
For the most part, learn how to fall. You know, you'd think it's easy, just don't fall and hit your head, but there's a lot more to it. Tua
Tagovailoa's concussions have been so bad, he has people pleading for him to retire. After everything we've seen, the helmet changes, the tug-of-war rulemaking, the long-term dangers. For players like Tua, the stakes couldn't be any higher. And this is where I think the Q-collar can really make a difference. After getting obsessed with how woodpeckers protect their brains, Dr. David Smith locked into a new idea. What if we could do the same thing, but for people? So imagine for a second you're Dr. Smith, and you wanted to test this idea. How would you even go about it? Well, in 2011, he led an experiment with 20 rats. He put a small collar on half of them that gently squeezed their jugular vein, making a prediction that a little more blood will stay in their heads, causing less brain movement and damage. Then, just like in my last video, bonked them on the head to see what would happen. And it revealed that his prediction was true. The rats wearing the collar had more pressure inside their heads and showed fewer signs of brain injury. In other words, the extra blood in their heads gave the brain less room to move around, which meant less damage. But it doesn't necessarily mean that much. I will say it is cool to see the results of the study, but 20 rats in a lab doesn't necessarily apply to all humans. So they got to work, and after 10 years of research and more than 25 independent studies, the FDA officially cleared the Q-collar in 2021 as a safe, non-invasive way to help protect the brain. In one of those studies, football players wore the collar for an entire season. The players who wore it had about a 66% lower chance of brain injury, which is pretty nuts. But even with all of that evidence, not everybody's convinced. Some people have raised questions about the Q-collar. They point out that some of the numbers might be questionable, that there are unreliable markers for brain damage, and that players who wear the collar might feel too safe and play more aggressively than they would have otherwise. Those are genuine concerns, but to me, that's all part of the process when you're trying to create something that could truly change the game. But that's why I really love this story, because it's not just about new tech, it's about the science that pushes us forward to create things that weren't even imaginable years ago. Coming up with an idea, testing, then creating, possibly falling on your face, but then getting right back up and starting the cycle over again. Even if the Q-collar isn't a touchdown, it's still a step forward towards a possible breakthrough. It follows the mantra to just keep moving the chains. Hey you! Yeah you! You watched the whole video but you didn't subscribe? I'm trying to get to 1 million subscribers and we're only 999,986 away. So do it! Subscribe! Do it!